Welcome to Destination Linux, the Baxter building of open source innovation, where every commit ignites a cosmic spark. I'm your Mr. Fantastic this week, Michael, stretching the limits of tech with my Fantastic Four of code-wielding heroes, ready to reshape the Linux multiverse. Jill is our invisible woman, stealthy, code-shielding genius who can sandbox an app faster than she can throw up a force field. I like how she ducked.
Is that your attempt to be invisible, Jill? Is ducking?
Yes, I mean, it worked. It worked really good because of the way we're styling the intros. It does work, actually. Ryan is our human torch, fiery hacker blazing through server configs and torching all the bloat with a single flame on. This week's Cosmic Quest, we're diving into Google's shifting stance on open source, probing the key logs in Linux to troubleshoot like galactic detectives, and tackling listener feedback claiming Arch is the ultimate Linux superpower, apparently.
It's true.
Plus, we're busting out our plasma cannons to check out the latest release of the KDE Plasma desktop. So get out of the negative zone, harness your cosmic rays, sync your repos, and remember, when it comes to proprietary software, it's clobbering time. This is Destination Linux.
This week, I'm very excited about our community feedback, and it comes from John.
Of course you are.
John says, hello, Michael, Ryan, and Jill. As always, I love the show.
Thank
Windows Vista.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to state that this week has marked a lot of change in my Linux system. I have returned to Arch, by the way. I mean, that's amazing.
Fun.
And I'm running Hyperland on the system. Likewise, I was inspired by Michael to rice again. Why not inspired by me? I do more ricing than Michael. I changed my wallpaper.
Okay, first of all, you change nothing.
The wallpaper.
At all.
That's part of ricing.
That's not part of ricing. That's just part of like basic fundamental customizations, like just changing the wall.
Yeah. Okay.
I changed the entire desktop layout of my my system, and I technically just turned it to the Breeze Dark theme, but whatever. I still technically changed it.
Well, they were inspired by you, Michael, to rice again, and there's no end to their ideas, which, once you get stuck in that ricing world, it's like endless. For me, the closest I came to that world was when I was the i3 prodigy that I named to myself. And I spent lots of time
proclaimed i3 prodigy.
editing i3 to make it, the perfect desktop environment. Because you can't use i3 out of the box. Like,
no,
I guess you could.
They don't tell you how to use it. It's like literally you have to figure out the keyboard shortcuts and stuff because they don't tell you what it is. And it's very specific to their own thing. So you do actually have to rice it quite a bit. But it's actually kind of funny because a lot of people don't know what ricing is. And if you're new to Linux and you don't know what that means, it means customizing your system to the point that it doesn't really make much value in your changes, because it's kind of like you are customizing it to the point you're like, oh, this is really cool. But what if I did this extra thing that really doesn't matter, but it's cool? That's basically what ricing is.
It's a lot of fun. And, I think it was really neat to see PewDiePie go down that path. Like when he got into Linux, I think when you first get into Linux, that's the power that it hands you, is the ability to go and customize it. All of a sudden, everything is accessible to be customized and messed with and changed. And it's not just decided for you. And that's a lot of power. And it could be a lot of fun to go into the system and mess around with that if you want.
What they say about absolute power.
Oh, yeah. It corrupts absolutely.
No, it just means you're going to have to do a lot of customization and it'll take a while. That's all.
Oh, I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
Then they say here that so far so good. Love the show as always, and it always makes my week. Ryan?
Aww.
I am mainly back on Arch Linux because it allowed me to install Hyperland right from the Arch install script. That's because Arch is superior in every way, and it allows everything to be done perfectly.
Arch is a great system for non-beginner people, yes.
Thank you for always making my week. Well, you just made our week, John. That means a lot to us. It really does. Really appreciate that feedback. And Michael, though, I want to tell you, Michael tried to ruin this really happy message, John, that you sent us.
What?
And listen, Michael, this show, we're honest. We were going to bring everything out into the open. Our audience gets to decide.
Ryan saying that when he makes up so much stuff about me.
This is what happens. Jill, you can be you could be the moderator here.
Yes.
Did Michael not make the claim that the only reason I chose this fantastic feedback is because they mentioned the word Arch in it?
That I did say, but also I'm
Yes.
100%. I'm very confident that is
John,
true.
I chose this amazing email just because it was amazing. It just happened to get to the top of my inbox because you mentioned Arch. But that is not a secret for the rest of you just to go put Arch in your email to get to the top and read on the show. Because if you do something like that and throw a compliment of me in there, you definitely will get to the very tippity top of the show. Life hack.
That's what he's getting at. Yeah.
That's tip of the week right there.
Yeah. Tip of the week is just compliment Ryan to get on the show if you want. But like you could be like, I wonder if, how far you can do it. It'd be like if you have something negative to say about the show, you have a criticism or something at the very end. It says, "P.S. Ryan, you're great." Would that make
fine.
it okay? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. As long as you distance me from the thing you don't like, that's totally cool.
What if they put Ryan's okay? I guess.
I mean, that's nice, you know.
Oh,
I really
that's
like the
always
Ryan's
good.
okay comments. Thank you for leaving them in YouTube. I love that my name's trending now in Google. Ryan's okay, I guess, is trending.
Yeah,
and did we
probably
get?
is.
We have the shirt out there now, right? You can get a Ryan's okay shirt.
Yeah, you can get one.
Ryan's okay shirt.
I
don't know why you'd want one, but you can.
You can go get
Aw.
one. Ryan's
Well,
okay, I guess.
I wanted to give our viewers, our wonderful viewers, a little ricing lesson. That's a term that just started being used for Linux, but it's a term that goes way back in the automotive industry. When you customize your car, you are ricing them. And in the 70s, I riced a Camaro with my brother, even though I could never drive it, but I helped him with all the customizations on it.
So here's the funny thing about it is that the ricing term, when I talked about this in the PewDiePie reaction video, which by the way got a lot of views, and if you haven't seen it, it's great.
Oh, pat yourself
biased,
on the back. There,
not
Mike.
biased at all. It's a great video.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there we talked about
humble.
ricing in it, and there was a lot of comments about it. And some of the people were giving information about where it comes from and stuff like that. And it turns out it goes back to like Japan. And there's a term that is literally to do with rice that was then converted into the cars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that one comment specifically pointed out the fact that ricing in cars is an insult because it's basically saying you're adding stuff to your car for no reason. And it's like adding a giant spoiler on the back of like, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's ruining the value of the car. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's like that kind. So in the terms of computers or Linux specifically, ricing is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
In terms of cars, a little bit.
Maybe,
although I guess
but you know what? Let people do what the heck they want. Why do I care if somebody wants to put a 3-foot story spoiler in the back of their car and drive around? It doesn't affect me. Like, do what you want. If that makes you happy, drive around.
I'm letting you know about the information.
That's all I'm saying.
I'm providing information. I'm just a conduit.
I hear you.
No
but
judgment.
you said it wasn't a good thing. I'm saying do what the heck you want.
I said the people in the community of cars think it's not. I don't
That's
care.
your community, though, not my community. My community says live and let live. That's my community.
My community is be a conduit to provide information to people.
No, that's my community. I literally end every video with fill your brains. Like you can't even try it. But the point is, Jill,
with what though?
Yeah. Michael, we need to go down to the local tourist area, like the pier here in SoCal, and have your name written on a piece of rice. There you go.
Is that a thing?
That's a thing. Yes.
How do you get a name on rice?
Yeah.
A little grain of rice.
Tiny,
Somebody
little
writes
grain
it?
of rice. Yeah.
Tiny? Huh.
I want to see that.
Ricing.
There's so much ricing.
Cool.
Also, we got to really talk about the most important piece of this part about ricing: basmati rice, jasmine rice, regular rice, white rice, brown rice. I mean, basmati rice is pretty good.
I just love rice. Period. Any rice is good.
It's true.
It's just like rice in your system.
Rice. Yeah.
If you want to do a big spoiler on the back of your monitor, do it.
I would love that. Please,
that'd be dope, wouldn't it?
Send that photo into us and let us know.
Send us a picture.
Yeah.
By going to destinationlinux.net/comments or destinationlinux.net/forum. Send us pictures of your riced out system as well. I'd love to see some of the customization things that you all do. And bonus, if you include instructions, that would be cool too for other people if you do something that's pretty unique or cool.
Yeah,
or different.
exactly. PewDiePie.
Yeah,
gives instruction.
So as Linux users, we know what's up. Security is non-negotiable, but with threats getting smarter, your security tools need to keep pace without dragging your systems down. Traditional agents, that's exactly what they do. They slow you down and leave blind spots, and it's time for a smarter approach. That's why Destination Linux is proud to be sponsored by Sandfly Security, the revolutionary agentless platform designed for Linux. What I want you to do is go to destinationlinux.net/Sandfly and see how Sandfly can transform your security strategy. Now, Michael, we get requests from VPNs. We get requests from Bitcoin companies all the time to run ads on our network. And we have to turn them down because we have
a thing called standards. Yeah.
Very high standard for and this is true. We have very high standards for what we allow to be advertised on this show. If we were just in it for the money, we'd have all those ads running, but we wouldn't be able to validate them. Sandfly is legit. We have videos showing them at the Red Hat Summit. We're going to their booth, talking to them. It's just an incredible company. And if you haven't heard this ad and not gone out to the website, you need to check them out and see what they're doing. It's really, really impressive. Destinationlinux.net/Sandfly. Because Sandfly doesn't just detect and respond, but revolutionizes your entire security system with SSH key tracking, password auditing, drift detection, covering threats from every single angle. Whether your systems are in the cloud, on premise, in embedded devices, Sandfly ensures they're all secure without the headaches of an agent-based system.
And there's also some really cool stuff you can do. You can use a coupon code. We'll talk about that in a second. But if you are interested in applying this to your business, they have a free trial. So you can try out everything. You can put it in like your development. You can even do production tests if you wanted to, because you have a free trial to do it. And you can quickly see how valuable it is by doing that.
And listen to what Celinda Lacombe from Tate Communications has to say. Sandfly addresses a serious security gap in the industry: intrusion detection on Linux platforms. The best part of Sandfly is its agentless nature, making it versatile application for any Linux environment. Experience security that's not just effective, but gives you peace of mind. No agents, no downtime, just cutting edge protection. And if you're not listening to the news and all the cybersecurity threats out there, you really need stuff like this now. It's not like it'd be nice to have. It's a pretty much you better have something like Sandfly running on your systems right now. It's crazy the hacks going on. Crazy.
Yeah. And there's new ones every day. Yep. Every day. So maybe we should make a cybersecurity news podcast that we can have like constant content always being made.
I like this idea. Let's do it. We'll call it Ryan.
We'll workshop some names. But if you want to check out Sandfly and get a discount on the home edition because you want to install it into your own systems, you're going to get 50% off by using the discount code Destination50. That's right. So get the home edition with 50% off with Destination50 and go to destinationlinux.net/Sandfly to get all of this. That's destinationlinux.net/SANDFLY.
We have a heck of a suite of products we brought to people on this show, Michael. Bitwarden.
That's right.
Sandfly. Incredible. Right. What are some others, Michael? They're all great.
DigitalOcean.
Hello.
One of the ones. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's just, we bring the best of Linux out there. So go check out Sandfly. But while you're doing that, Jill, there's somebody switching over to open source.
Yeah.
I did it, guys. Exciting. I switched. And there's a whole news story about it.
Finally.
Well, maybe it's not just me. Maybe it's bigger than me.
Who's switching, Jill?
Okay. So I wanted to talk about the big news that has been reported in the Linux community that the Danish government is switching to Linux, like the German government did last year.
Nice.
But the news about switching to Linux was retracted by Politiken newspaper and computerworld.dk. And the OMG Ubuntu blog states, since this article was published, the original reporting at Politiken and computerworld.dk have been amended to retract the claim that Windows will be replaced by Linux, citing a misunderstanding with the ministry. However, Office 365 is being replaced with LibreOffice.
Okay, nice again.
This is okay, but it doesn't make any sense. Because the only reason to use Windows is for Office. And if you're already going to go to LibreOffice, like, why continue paying for that license?
It's just like, hey, we're not saying we're switching away from Windows now, but we are going through the process of setting up so that we can, because, it's like if they, one of the best things to do is if you're getting into Linux and you're interested in switching, but you don't really know if everything that you need is going to be available, you can check on those things. But you can also just switch over to the open source software. And if you like basically every open source software is on Linux. I don't know of any that isn't. There might be, but I don't know of any of it, because the whole idea is that it's as soon as it's made available and it's open source, Linux, usually the Linux community says, well, we want it on our platform, so we're going to build it for it. So that could be a reason why they're kind of just saying like, hey, we didn't really say that part, but maybe.
Yeah, the great news is that the Danish government is taking a step forward to open source by switching half of the employees at Denmark's Ministry of Digital Affairs from Microsoft Office 365 to the awesome LibreOffice. And just like Germany's switch to open source, the move is part of Denmark's tech strategy, prioritizing digital sovereignty and reducing dependency on big tech companies. And the ministry aims to have all employees using open source software by autumn, but may revert to Microsoft products if issues arise. But the big news is already 2 big Danish municipalities, Aarhus and Copenhagen, have already switched to LibreOffice for its financial benefits and concerns over US-based tech. Also, the EU is currently considering increasing open source adoption by governments across member states due to cloud and AI computing gaps. So honestly, like Michael was saying earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if Linux is part of Denmark's and the EU's future. I think that future is definitely coming. We already have Germany on the Linux train.
What do you think it means of the concerns over US tech and then also the states due to cloud and AI computing gaps? Is that because LibreOffice doesn't have the AI stuff integration that they want to utilize it, or?
No, I think it's more like most of those technologies are US based and they don't have their own. That's kind of how I'm interpreting.
Yeah, it's kind of like
in the European market.
Some of them are referring to as like I forgot what it's like. Digital autonomy, that kind of thing, where they have. There's a term, I don't remember what it is, but it's like the idea
digital
of like
autonomy. Yeah,
I mean, I maybe. And it's just basically saying like they have stuff that's, they're outsourcing to other countries and stuff like that. And there could be some negative repercussions depending on like treaties and whatnot, depending on the different countries.
Or trade agreements even.
Or trade agreements, yeah.
Or tariffs.
Or, well, you said it. Yeah. And and also the EU has been thinking about this kind of thing for a while. But recently there's been more discussion on it in general. And there also is an EOS or EUOS, which is a kind of a proof of concept. It's not really meant for being a distribution to use, but it's more of like kind of show the European Union, like here's an OS you could have that would, or something like it, that you could kind of create one for all of the different countries that are related to the EU. And that'd be kind of an interesting idea to have one that's all for like governmental purposes and that sort of stuff. So that would be an interesting take from them to go for. And I think that the idea of switching over is always great, regardless of what they're switching. If it's just the operating system or if it's just an app, that's still cool. Pretty much.
I agree, but I also don't want to agree because I want them to go all in. It's kind of like being like, hey, I'm a Chevy person and I'm going to switch to being a fan of Toyota. So I'm going to take a Toyota steering wheel and put it in my Chevy. Like, this is a partial approach to you need to put all your feet in the water. That's what I'm saying, Denmark. All your feet. Put all your feet in the water. All 6 of them. Put all 6 of your feet in the water. 2 of them.
6?
2 of your feet in the water. I mean, I don't know. Denmark people have more feet than United States people.
I was thinking like, okay, you're not, because they're not spiders, so that's clear. That's 8.
Oh, that clears that up.
Yeah. So I'm like, what? I was trying to think of like, what is like? It's like a hexapod. What is that? No, I don't know what the term is.
We have a lot of Danish listeners that you just insulted, Michael. That's ridiculous. They only have 2 feet.
You're the
And
one who
they
said
need to
6
put
feet.
both
I'm
feet in the
saying
water is what I'm saying and move forward.
you said 6 feet. I don't know what you're talking. I'm trying to figure out what that kind of animal would be, and
Isn't
I
it just
can't.
an insect? Isn't a regular insect just have six?
Well, an insect has 6, but that doesn't. You don't just because it has 6 doesn't make it an insect. That's just a part of what.
What's your
makes an
favorite insect, Michael?
That's probably bees. Bees because
Yeah, I
honey.
like bees.
Yeah, honey's
good
great.
choice.
Yeah. Huh. What's your favorite, Ryan?
We
now
know
I want
it's
to
not
go
a
with bees
centipede.
because I would have chose something stupid. But you know which one I hate the most is centipedes.
We do know that.
Yeah,
but those aren't insects, are they? They're just a kind of bug. I don't think they're insects.
They're just disgusting. Anything with that many legs ain't right. It needs to just go off the planet entirely.
So for those who are curious, is Ryan actually bothered by this? Yes, I have shown him. There was a centipede, or the millipede. I think it was a millipede that was in my house recently. Not recently, but a few months ago. And I took a photo and was like, hey, guess what I found? And Ryan did not like that photo.
No, I will kill any bug, or even I'll capture most of them and just set them back free outside. But when it comes to centipedes, straight Glock 40 into the wall, just take it right out.
There actually is a benefit to them. They kill certain types of other insects.
Listen, in my village, when my village gets formed, we will go on a mass eradication movement towards the centipedes and millipedes. They're disgusting.
There will no longer be millipedes and centipedes in Ryan's island.
We will take them off this planet for sure.
Jill, what's your favorite insect?
Yeah, you know what? It actually is a bee. I've always loved bees.
Unanimous. Bee. Yeah. Not Bee Movie. That's a weird movie.
Yeah.
But bees, great.
Everyone loves bees. All right. Well, send us in your comments and let us know.
As long as they stay away from me. I don't want them to be next to me because I don't want to be stung.
Not wasps.
No, wasps are the devil. Wasps are pure evil. Like they have they don't even have bees. They don't sting because that's actually like the last thing they can do, and they only do it with last resort. Wasp, they just do it because hey, there's a person, let's sting them. Yeah. Wasps are evil.
There's a person, let's sting them.
Actually, truth be told, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a beekeeper. I had
oh my
enjoyed
gosh,
going
I'm so
to
glad
bee
you
farms.
added keeper to the end of that sentence. I thought you were going to say
to be a bee.
Wanted to be a bee.
No, I enjoy.
Well, if you watch Bee Movie, that turns out bees know law, and they
they do have a pretty interesting society, kind of like ants do. Ants would be up there for me too. They're pretty dope.
Yeah.
Ants create their own little villages and everything. They're pretty neat.
Also, if they stay away from me, pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't really want to step on one.
I like the idea of ants and the idea of bees.
You know what reminds me of icky bugs is Google lately with the move they recently made. They're being icky bugs.
Good transition. Well done. What a segue.
Google has been relatively open source friendly. They've donated to myriads of projects. They've been sponsors of myriads of open source projects. And generally, when you talk about hey, I'm going to utilize a more private OS on a phone, a Pixel device is one of the first devices that comes to mind for people to use. It's one of the most compatible devices for you to switch that over. Well, Google took a look at that and said, let's make it worse for people. Let's just stop being cool.
I think they said, nah.
Bzz. Oh no, they wouldn't make a bee sound. What's a bad bug sound?
Wasp, like a wasp sound.
Yeah,
what is that one? What's the difference?
Can you make a wasp sound? Work on that. I edited it in later.
I think that was pretty good.
What about locust? Locust sounds.
Now, just going. You're just going too far, Jill.
So they released Android 16 source code to the Android Open Source Project AOSP on June 10th, but did not include Pixel hardware repos or the device tree. And that is very unusual from their traditional practices where they would always do that. And this makes it extremely challenging for people who do custom ROM developers to actually release for Pixel devices when you don't include that information there.
Yeah. And it makes sense because there's a lot of popular ones that are mostly focusing on pixels. So it makes sense that Google would do this because Google is Google, you do not have a friend in me.
Nice one. The omission, obviously created lots of speculation of people going, hey, why is this happening? Is Google no longer supporting, open source, the Android open source, AOSP anymore? And Google's like, "Nuh-uh, we're still cool," but still hasn't put in the Pixel stuff in there. They didn't say that exactly. That's my interpretation of their response.
Well, also the AOSP is a shell of its former self. Like they've been doing this to AOSP forever. I mean, for years anyway, where they used to have an entire ROM that you could get with AOSP and effectively have everything you need inside of this thing. Now they don't even have a phone app. They don't have an email app. They don't have a calendar app. You have to get all this other stuff, third party and stuff like that. So they've locked it all behind the Google Play Store stuff, or even like their own like Google suite of apps. So you have to use their stuff in order to get those
It's
like
so
core fundamental
anti-competitive.
features. Yeah.
I mean, Apple's worse because, well, apparently they're going to be forced, at least in EU, to open up and allow side app stores and things like that. Apple is, but Apple's traditionally been worse. But by not having this Pixel hardware in the repos, it basically makes it very difficult for people who have these custom distros and things to update the device. So this is the frustration with this type of thing. So you take the time, because you're privacy security focused, to go put something like EOS or Graphene OS on your phone. You're making all the right moves. And then, your big fear is, am I going to get all the updates? Am I going to be able to have all the same features and everything enabled? And, up to this point, the answer has been yes, because they've had the hardware source code and things like that they could utilize to make sure that was happening. And now this makes it nearly, well, not impossible, but very, very difficult for these tools to actually, third parties, to actually overcome these hurdles and be able to give you the, driver binaries and all the stuff that's needed for these devices. And I think it's very anti-competitive of Google to do this, especially at this point. And like you said, Michael, there's kind of a history here recently of Google kind of putting things behind this. So maybe they're thinking, hey, Apple had it right the whole time. Let's put everything into a walled garden. I don't know. But it's weird because Google's such a big part of open source. In so many ways, they're a huge contributor.
They've done a ton of stuff, and it's kind of ridiculous how many cool things that Google has done that we have in the open source world. And also, just Kubernetes alone was created by Google and then open sourced and provided to everybody. And it's a huge, Kubernetes is so big that there are multiple conferences for just Kubernetes every year in different continents. It's a massive thing. And they were just like, there you go. And then they do this.
Here's the other thing.
Google, help us help you. Help us love you. Why do you make us not love you?
I haven't loved Google in a long time. Well, as
soon as they got they removed the don't be evil thing, that was a very clear sign of issues happening.
Well, also, Mike and I were talking about earlier, it used to be they encouraged you to hack their phones with their Nexus line. And as soon as they made it cool. And as soon as they moved over to the Pixel line, they've started squeezing our customizations down, our ability.
Well, they did this with the browser,
want to
too.
Fit you inside of a tiny box. So that's why they call it a Pixel, because they want you to have this one little tiny bit of control of your phone, and then the rest of it is theirs.
But they did this with the browsers too, Michael, where they started removing some of the sync features that people used to be able to have third-party access to.
Took it out of Chromium and then only made it Chrome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is what Google does, basically. It's kind of weird because of the fact that there is like so much evidence to show that they are not friends of open source, and then they still do some things that are so awesome, like making the Go language, making Kubernetes, and then making all this available. They do, and they also contribute to like the kernel and all sorts of stuff. And it's kind of weird because part of me is like, I want to like all this stuff they're doing, but then they do the other thing, and it's like, okay.
But some people are speculating that this is part of the antitrust lawsuit, in which they're going to have to basically break apart Chrome from Android or other things in there into separate companies. And if that's the case, then, you could kind of see what the future of Android may be like. And what's also interesting is from a security standpoint, Google Phone out of the box, not very private, does have a lot of settings that you can set to eventually make it private, but takes a long time because you got to do it in the browser, then you got to do it in the phone settings, and there's about 6 areas in the phone settings.
When updates happen, you got to go back and fix it.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of things you got, but eventually you can make it private, ish, if you trust that Google's actually following
and
the things.
It also turns out, I didn't know this, but I made a comment about some, like in a previous episode, I talked about how I had those lights that I bought that required GPS to use the app. And that, no, for my lights, no, not a chance. And turns out in some comments, I found out that in the Android, maybe not this latest version, but for the last most versions, they've had a weird thing where the location data and the Bluetooth data were merged together for some reason. So when you had a permissions to activate Bluetooth, it automatically asked you for your GPS as well. So if you had anything that needed Bluetooth, it would require to be asked that. When you could just separate the two because there's really no difference, there's no reason there to be together. And the only thing that you can imagine is like, well, if you walk by a Bluetooth, like an AirTag, which is technically like a Bluetooth pickup, that could be GPS.
Probably why they did it when they went with the whole AirTag system.
Yeah. Like it's kind of anyway.
But one of the reasons why so many security researchers, you'll see like when they find a new malware, a new virus that affects phones and everything, and this is kind of unfair in a lot of ways, and we've talked about this on the show, is you'll see they'll talk about Android and say something like at the bottom of the article, probably affects Apple too. But the reason why they know it works on Android is because Android's open source, so they can actually go in and watch and see what's happening with the device and the application and see what it's affecting and what it's accessing and all of that type of stuff. So as they move away from that stuff and we stop having access to all of these pieces, then what happens is the security research that they're getting for free, they're getting all of that free security help from the open source community, goes away. So to me, this is also going to hinder security research and make Google phones less secure by doing this type of thing. So it's just, to me, be interesting to see how it goes. Maybe they'll throw it back in there once all the antitrust stuff is over, but very frustrating and upsetting, and makes a lot more work for EOS and Lineage and other custom ROMs out there to function.
That's probably the biggest issue, is the people who are using the Pixel. Like, the graphene is just for Pixels. So like, how does this impact graphene? That's, I would imagine, pretty big impact. But I haven't seen anything about like them responding to it or anything like that.
I think they'll figure probably stuff out because they're just that good, but it just makes their life that much more difficult.
This makes it harder. Yeah.
Right. For it to happen. Michael, KDE Plasma 6.4 came out. So let's move on. The tip of the week this week.
How dare you?
Are we going to let Michael do this, Jill?
Yes.
Dare you? So for those who don't know, we all get to bring a topic that we want to talk about to the show. And Ryan got his, Jill got hers, and now for some reason, Ryan thinks that I can't I'm going to have... I kind of
gave you yours. I announced it, and we can move on. Because Michael, you are a fanboy of KDE, unlike any other fanboy out there. You're like a 13-year-old girl when New Kids on the Block came out. That's how bad you are with KDE. And so, like, you're...
And if you would have made a joke that I... Like, that's such an old reference. I don't even know any songs from New Kids on the Block.
You're like a 13-year-old girl at a Taylor Swift concert.
Still don't know Taylor Swift. You need to pick. If you would have said something like Backstreet Boys or NSYNC, I would have gone into like a joke about singing one of the songs. But you ruined it. You picked a band when I was too young to even know what that is. Huh. So how dare you?
You're not that
actually.
Young,
I do know.
Dude. You know what Backstreet Boys is.
No. You said New Kids on the Block. I know that they existed because my sister was really into them. And I have no idea what their songs
so you get the reference. Your sister was really into them.
But I'm saying you ruined my ability to sing a pun.
You don't know New Kids on the Block song?
No, do you?
Michael.
Backstreet's back.
Bye.
That's literally Backstreet Boys. Why would they?
All right.
How could
it's gonna be May?
How could you?
You know?
Oh,
that's
okay.
Their song.
We're gonna say bye to Ryan in this segment. We're gonna go into the KDE Plasma, the KDE Plasma topic. So KDE Plasma 6.4 has landed, and at this point, it is packed with tons of improvements and lots of polish. The update sharpens the desktop in almost every front. So, like, for one example, would be the new per desktop tiling layouts, which is very cool. So you can have exactly how you want your windows on each workspace / desktop. Very cool. And they've also kind of changed the Breeze theme. So the Breeze Dark theme is a little bit darker, which I think actually looks quite good. So good job on that. And also there's a brand new calibration wizard for HDR. And you can use this to squeeze out every nit of a modern display. Yeah, I read
that is nit.
Nit.
That's awesome.
Very nit. Yes. Very keen. If you're running KDE Neon or any of the rolling releases, you should expect to get some updates for relatively soon. Roughly about 3,000 plus changes will hit those repos pretty soon. For everyone else, you sit back for getting the highlights, because we're going to talk about everything that's coming. But
all
you might have to wait a little bit. Yes, well, not every change, but we're going to talk about most of them. Most of them, because obviously I want to talk about 3,000, but I'll give you a little bit of a reprieve, Brian.
We're out of time. The show's actually over.
We actually don't have. We have so much time. The first 2 topics went by so quickly. I have so much time left to talk about KDE Plasma. It's great.
All right.
It's great. So KDE Plasma 6.4 is out, and there's a ton of cool stuff. But we're going to talk about, I think, the one that steals the show is the per desktop tiling. That is just so awesome. So for those who don't know, tiling window managers is the ability to kind of have your applications laid out nicely in a grid style, so that you can have it in whatever configuration you want, whether you want to have like vertical stuff with columns, or you want to have like rows, or you want to have a full grid where you have different squares and that sort of stuff. You can do all these sorts of things with tiling window managers. Now, KDE Plasma does have tiling, and it's had it for a very long time, but it has a different way of doing it. It's more like you set these zones to be able to tile something in a particular spot, and then you can move everything around there.
It was okay, but it's never been great.
I mean, you're wrong. Anyway, so you can...
Compared to like i3WM or a dedicated tiling manager,
it depends on your workflow.
It was okay.
It depends on your workflow. I don't like the dynamic tiling. It's not my thing, because there's always a time where I want certain windows to be a specific size. And then with dynamic tiling, it's going to modify every time you open something. And that just annoys me. I like to be able to say, I want this window to be exactly this size at this exact spot and all that sort of stuff. And with the zones, you can do that. You can do it more with KWin window rules, but that's a more complicated thing. Very cool feature, but not relevant to this. And now you can do that same idea of having specific zones on a per desktop basis. So let's say you want to have one desktop that has everything. They have 2 windows that are side by side, but you can also have another one that's 3 windows side by side. Or let's say you want to have one that has 4 windows in a grid, in a square grid. Or rectangle grid, I guess. But you could do that, and you can do it any other configuration you want. If you want to have just some that are floating in the space in the middle, you can do that too.
Just to do this show, I have 6 windows open at once. And, it's just like being able to tile those effectively is so helpful. Also, for those who manage lots of servers and networks and things, you're SSHing into you've got a bunch of different terminals up. Extremely helpful to have tiling and things up. Plus have, your search engine in the right-hand corner, maybe AI up in the left-hand corner and all that. It's part of ricing in a way to have everything tiling.
Is very ricing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Even any kind of tiling is very ricing. And I think that some people are going to love the dynamic tiling of other systems or other desktops. And I like having the option of this style. It's just my preference, whatever. I'm also really looking forward to Cosmic because of the whole combination of the two.
He's also a fanboy, so no matter what they do, he's gonna love it.
No, there are some things that I'm not a great. I have a little bit of critiques, but for the most part, it's fantastic. The critique would be why is the default of Plasma that super bright panel with the super bright menus and the super bright everything? It's a little off. I prefer the Breeze Twilight should be the one that's default. That makes the most sense. That's what Kubuntu does, but other ones don't do that. But anyway, moving on. They've also done some cool stuff with the HDR. They've done a lot of updates for HDR, high dynamic range, Ryan.
Yes.
Oh, that's what that is.
You're welcome.
Anytime they put HD in front of something, I pay more. That's all I know. Do I have to pay more for this?
No, you do. Yes, it's they increased the price from free to free.
Oh wow, that's a
free
big
plus.
Jump, but I'm willing to pay it. Yeah, I'm willing to pay that for HDR.
Free plus.
What's interesting is Windows isn't very good at HDR. A lot of distros aren't very good at HDR. So I love seeing when we get new HDR features like this put into our system because it makes us better than Windows.
Now, I'm not saying this is the greatest experience of HDR ever, but
it's improved.
Improved, and that's great because they're putting in the effort to, make that sort of thing a focus. And another thing that I love that they're focusing on is the accessibility factor, which is awesome. So they're changing it so you can use the keyboard to control your mouse, your pointer. Nice. You can also have a new feature for pinch to zoom, so that you can have for your touchpad. You can use 3 fingers to pinch to zoom, which is nice. And other things that they're working on, and they're constantly working on the accessibility factor. And they even said it's an endless effort, but it's a very important one. And I completely agree with that.
We've really not gotten a great form factor for tablets and things in Linux. Like we've had a couple of them out there that tried to launch and they weren't super effective, at like gaining a huge audience. And I feel like it's a great area for Linux to thrive in on these touch device, tablet devices and things, because you could have a whole desktop experience. One of the problems with tablets that I've always had, whether it be an iPad or even an Android-based devices, you can't quite do the stuff you need to do on a desktop. It still runs like a mobile. It's just bigger. It's like a big mobile device. Whereas if you have a full desktop experience, all the power of a desktop in a tablet, Linux could do that all day long. It's just we don't have anybody really utilizing the hardware in that fashion. I think DAX would probably be the closest thing to that Samsung did, where you could plug it in and turn it into a desktop. But other than that, not really seeing that functionality. However, Framwork's new laptop is a 2-in-1 convertible that folds in half and has the stylus and stuff with it.
Yeah.
I'm like, as if I didn't want a Framework already bad enough. Then they go and do this. And it's like, and then they got new colors too. They have some really cool colors out there, different greens and blues and stuff you can get your laptop in. And you can totally rice your Framework system, because you can actually get different color. You know how all the ports and everything you can pull out and exchange and swap out, everything swappable. You can get different colors. So you can have like a Sage laptop with clear USB-Cs or black USB-Cs. I don't do color coordination stuff well, so I'd ask Michael, hey, makes my laptop cool. But
so for those who don't know, Sage is green. It's a form of green.
So anyways, my point is Frameworks plus KDE plus ricing. Perfect. This is the perfect awesome combination.
Yeah. Actually, the thing about it, like that's the ricing applied to hardware for computers. That's perfect for Framework because you can customize it so much, and you can customize like everything. You can even customize the border around your monitor, around the screen. Yeah. And so all sorts of stuff. Awesome. It's very cool.
They have a Frameworks desktop now that's fully customizable as well with the front panels and stuff that Frameworks is just, I'm going to own a bunch of Framework stuff. And the thing that's really cool about that is, again, having the full power of your distro, but being able to fold that and utilize it for note taking or other stuff that you need. Just very, very excited about that. But I also would like to see more offerings for tablets and stuff to utilize the feature that we're talking about here in KDE for getting more of that.
The tablet
zoom and touchscreen stuff
is very important in the sense of there's a lot of value in it. I think the hardest thing is because the devices are using ARM and they're kind of locked down, and you know there's not a lot of easy access. If we had one that had stuff built into it so we could just swap it out, that'd be great. And I do think that there are some efforts in it, but it hasn't been the greatest experience for a lot of people. But when you bring up Linux-based system and you bring up tablets and you put them together, I'm still very sad that we don't have WebOS anymore because it was fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah.
I forgot, it was like the HP tab, something like that, whatever they called it.
Touchpad.
The touchpad. Yeah, that's it. So the touchpad. I still have
mine and it works beautifully. I use it to listen to music.
The touchpad was just basically a bigger version of Palm's WebOS, and WebOS was so good.
Well, that's the thing is you can take it, because I know people are going to write in and say, oh, you can take a tablet and put Linux on it. There's a bunch of different tablets. You can do it with Surface tablets, other stuff. Yeah. But Linux doesn't really look, because it's not native to it. It doesn't look well. Meaning a lot of times things are really small, or they open up in weird, aspect ratio. Just stuff is kind of off. It can be done.
Something specifically made.
And you could use it, but I'm saying for your general population that would use this over other things. For instance, if I'm on the go and I want to do some of my college work. Some of that requires logging into labs and things, and you have to have a desktop browser to do. I can't do that on a tablet. It just doesn't work. And so if I had a system that I could carry with me to do my college stuff on the go when I'm, sitting in lines or doing other things where I've got some break time, maybe on a lunch break, trying to get some college stuff done, it would be super convenient for me. Right now, my only options for that really is like a Windows Surface that has a full operating system. And I don't use it, but that would be my only option. Full Windows operating that's calibrated for that tablet, or buying something and trying to put, a different distro on it. But now with Framworks, that's where I'm going. Like, I'll own one of those, and that's what I'll use because you can fold it in half, and it's very thin and light and, very portable. So anyways, enough about that. If anyone wants to send me a Framworks, by the way, just let me know in the comments and I'll accept it. I'm that kind of person.
If anybody wants to give me free hardware, that'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I agree. I will also take a free Framworks if anybody wants to send me.
Joel, you want a free Framworks too while we're
I want a free
orders?
Framework, not with the S.
Oh, yeah. Dang it. I do that every time, don't I?
Yeah,
I do it every time as well.
It's
and
They
okay.
change their name to Framworks.
Jill always throws us under the bus and waits to the end of the set, like until we're done, and then says it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's framework computing.
Well, I like works, so
but that's okay. It works on multiple levels.
So
yeah.
You know how older generations always add an S to stores they're going to? Like, I'm going to go to the Walmarts, or I'm going to go to the Costco's. Do you ever notice that? And that's what we're those people now, Michael. We're going to go get us a Framworks.
I got too much Riz to be that. So
too much Riz.
Too much Riz. I ain't gonna do it. No way.
I'm gonna get me a Framworks.
Okay, let's get back to the topic. Let me cook. Okay, so there's a new update to Spectacle, which has a lot of improvements, and they've made it much easier to change the way you do various different screenshots, as well as doing video recording with WebM, which is awesome. And for those who don't know, this is basically like a way to get Spectacle to do things quicker. So like when you first hit the keyboard or the shortcut for like print screen, it would open up the mode and you got to choose what you want to do. This is a way to they've changed it so it will automatically start doing the selections, which is very good. I think that is the best approach, especially doing the region selection is the best. I like that a lot. But for those who don't know, Spectacle is probably one of the best editor or screenshot tools on Linux. Now, there are some others that are in the same competitive space, but in my opinion, Spectacle is fantastic because it has all the different stuff that you would expect to have. It also has built-in annotations. That's right. If you want to draw some arrows, you want to circle stuff, you want to do highlights, you want to add some text, you want to do all that sort of stuff, is built into Spectacle. And a lot of people don't know that because it's sort of hidden away to there's like a little button that says annotate. You got to click that, and then you have all the different editing features and stuff like that. It's very cool. They've also updated the system monitor, which just basically makes it look nicer. Like it gives you more information, but also lays it out in a better way. So it looks better overall. So there's not much to talk about that. I just like a lot of people have like their. I mean, maybe not conky anymore, but a lot of people like to have their CPU data and GPU data and stuff like that. This is kind of like that. So they've made it just a nicer experience overall. But anyway, for the most part, this is a fantastic release of just polishing the desktop. And there are a few other things, here and there, like improving the Plasma browser integration and also improving the way you move around files and drag around files from different disks, and using Dolphin and also just the desktop itself. But there's too many things to cover, and I have spent enough time annoying Ryan with all the details. And if you would like to, if you'd like to learn more, you can check out the full changelog, the full announcement page that we'll have linked in the show notes. But I think this is a fantastic release, and I have been playing with it on KDE Neon. Oh, by the way, there's updates to KRunner, but KRunner is awesome. And so
KRunner is awesome. I love KRunner. Tell people what KRunner can do, Michael. When you start on your desktop, you just start typing. It's like
you just start typing, but it also works at any time if you hit Alt Space. Kind of like if you ever used a Mac, the command space, same location. Alt Space will activate KRunner, and it basically gives you. It's a launcher, but it also can do a ton of other stuff. So you can open applications, you can find files, you can do calculations, you can do unit conversions. Now with this update, you can put in some kind of text like a hex value, and it will show you what color the stuff is. And if you use like names that are CSS names for colors, like papaya whip, it will tell you what that color is. I have no idea what that color is, but you can do that. And that's very cool. So it kind of gives you like a small little circle that shows you what it looks like and that sort of thing. But there's a lot of other things that KRunner can do. It's effectively like a launcher, but it's more than just a launcher. It can do tons of cool stuff. If you'd like to learn more, I have a video about 17. Of course I do. 17 hidden gems that are in KDE Plasma that you might not have heard about. Now, this is a kind of an old video. I think I made it a couple years ago. So it's not KDE Plasma 6. But there's still a lot of cool stuff in there, including KRunner. You can find out more information about that, as well as other things, which most of those things are still in there. They're just slightly different because of Plasma 6. But KDE Plasma 6.4 is a fantastic release, and I have been playing with it I'm actually using it right now to record this episode on KDE Neon. And KDE Neon is not a distribution that most people should use. I just want to put that out there because if you're a beginner to Linux and you say, like, I like the idea of having an LTS version and then also having a running rolling release of the desktop, it does sound cool, but it's not really meant for that. It's kind of like an enthusiast type of distribution to if you want to play with the latest and greatest and you're just kind of messing around and that sort of stuff. That's kind of what KDE Neon is for. And if you want to just have like a stable system that only does the updates that are necessary and all that sort of stuff, then Kubuntu is the one to go with. So that's just a thing I wanted to mention because a lot of people think that they just look at the idea of a stable base with a rolling desktop, but there are some downsides of having that because it means that if some of the dependencies might not be updated that you want, and that could be an issue as well. So anyway, KDE Neon is fantastic.
Right, now you're ruining it. Now you're ruining it. It was good, but now you've gone too long.
Hold on a second. Don't make me papaya whip you. So so KDE Neon is great, by the way. So I'm not hitting on it. If you're just new, try out Kubuntu instead. But Plasma 6.4 is coming to a distro near you, and I think you're going to like it.
Yay.
There you go. There you go. Good job, Michael.
Beautiful, Michael.
It's hurting him inside that he's not still talking about it. Like it's killing him inside right now.
Okay, for those who are like, Ryan's making a joke. Am I a fanboy of KDE Plasma? Of course I am. Of course I am.
Redonkulous. All right, Jill, take us into our tip of the week.
Yeah, so we have a good one. Knowing where the logs are in your system can be critical to troubleshooting or even helping others help you to troubleshoot. So the tip this week is where you can find your logs from the terminal. var log syslog or var log messages captures general system activity, kernel messages, and service-related logs. var log syslog is used for Debian-based distros such as Ubuntu, and var log messages is used for Red Hat Enterprise Linux-based distros. var log dmesg, DMESG, contains kernel ring buffer messages useful for hardware and driver issues, and it also is accessible via the dmesg command in the terminal. And it's actually one of the commands I use a lot on Linux, and I have for years.
Doing any hardware troubleshooting.
Yeah, hardware troubleshooting, it's the bomb. And also var log auth.log or var log secure logs authentication related events such as login attempts, sudo usage, and SSH activity. Auth.log is for Debian and Ubuntu-based distros, and secure for RHEL-based distros. Also, var log kern.log stores kernel-specific logs helpful for diagnosing kernel panics or hardware failures. This log is common on Debian and Ubuntu-based systems. And lastly, we have var log boot.log, which records system boot messages useful for startup issues. These are very important for not just sysadmins, but just general Linux users to know where these logs are located for troubleshooting, for statistics.
Because a lot of times a new user will come on to a forum and ask for help. And one of the things people will ask for is logs from one of these areas. So we're not expecting people to go out there and memorize these, although you should take the show notes, copy it somewhere, and just take a look at those notes so you know where they're at. But familiarizing yourself with some of the key logs that people will generally ask you for if they're debugging something is fantastic. Also, if you're wanting to help out in open source, one of the big ways to help out is bug reporting. So if you do come across an issue, one of the things that's really helpful when you report a bug is to also include a relevant log that goes along with that bug. So if it's a boot issue or whatever, having the relevant logs to show the boot and what was happening during that time so that the developers can actually go in there, look at what's happening, and be able to make the fix much easier. Just super, super helpful.
Yeah, super helpful.
When
you can find these commonly on Reddit. People asking for, the codes that's coming out of your computer for issues that you're having, or on like the Ubuntu forums or the Arch forums. It's used everywhere. So knowing where these are located is very important.
Yeah. And you also, just real quick, you don't have to know what they're for and what they do necessarily, as you don't have to go in and go through a fine tooth comb to find the issues. You can just kind of copy and paste the logs and just Most of the time, I don't think any of these logs have any information that's not that's personal to you. I don't think any of that has that. So you should be just good to go usually. Yeah,
you're not going to see passwords or anything in them for sure. All that's hatched. So the only thing it may include is system spec stuff that, wouldn't be too bad for someone to get a hold of, especially when you're needing help. Well, that is a fantastic tip, Jill, and a great episode. So a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching or listening to Destination Linux. However you do it, we love your faces. Do you know that this show, just on the podcast section alone, has grown 36%, Michael, since January? 36%.
Since when?
January of this year.
So in just 2 quarters, we have grown 36%. That is awesome to hear.
Somehow,
welcome,
the Cheetos
people.
Puffs. That's what's brought people here is the Cheeto Puffs meme. I'm pretty sure it's that.
It is probably that. Yes. I think it must be that. Or the Jill. Various different debates. I mean, it's probably Jill, or the different debates about the different islands. And that's one of my favorites. Could be
well, we need to do an end of the year our favorite episode. Like we've never done.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That's true.
We go back
that'd be fun.
And watch our favorite sections of our favorite episodes. And then comment on it.
We
live.
Should do like a community feedback thing where we're like, hey, send us in your favorite segment of the show for this year, and we'll actually watch them back and do do
commentary for our episodes.
We could do a reaction video of ourselves.
Yeah.
By the way, if you guys haven't checked out the ending of the last episode we did, Michael did some incredibly awesome, super awesome work there in the video version.
He wanted to test my animation skills, and I was like, hold my beer.
Yeah. Well, Michael says twice, but I'm not going to do it. And I wonder if people just turned it off at that point. But in the end, of course, he succumbs to the pressure, the peer pressure.
I made a joke in the beginning about it because it was like, I said I wasn't going to do it because you didn't give me the material I needed to do it, which is basically you jumping. And then you did jump. And I was like, okay, I can do it. Yeah. I didn't tell him what I would need because I didn't want to do it. But then he jumped and I was like, okay,
right, fine, I'll do it.
Yeah,
fine.
It's very well done.
I'll prove how good animation skills I have.
The last compliment you're going to get for the rest of the year. What else, Michael?
Until the next time you want to be Superman, and then whatever.
Yeah, then
or you're going to be Batman. Who knows?
Well, or compliment Wendy because Wendy's back now, so she'll do the editing.
That's true. She'd probably be.
She'd make me fly into a wall and then splat.
Probably. I thought about it, but it was too much effort. But anyway, also a big thanks to Jill because she's joining us while being sick.
Oh, thanks, Jill.
So much. Yeah, it's been a long week.
This is the dedication we have, people. Even if we're sick, we're still here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Jill is anyway. We'll see about Ryan and us.
Excuse my scratchy throat.
Those who are curious.
They've already listened to the whole episode, Jill. You can't say excuse me after they suffered through the whole episode with your scratchy throat.
Anyway, if you want to join us and join us in the Patreon post show and use your scratchy throat and talk to us, you can become a member
Judgy.
in a Patreon. What? I don't even know what I was talking about.
You assume they all have scratchy throats?
I'm saying if you're sick and you have you can still, I mean, we're not going to catch it through Discord. Not possible. So it's fine. If you feel like you can do it, go ahead and join us at Discord, tuxdigital.com/membership to become a patron and join us in the Patreon-only post show. You can also just hang out on Discord too.
If you're physically sick or sick in the head, become a patron.
It depends on what level of sick in the head, I guess, really.
Yeah.
It depends on what they filled their brains with, right? Ryan?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what.
Yeah,
that could
you
be
eat puffy Cheetos. Don't even bother. That's ridiculous.
Says the guy who had puffy Cheetos last week.
I was just trying for science to see if I liked them, and I'll have you know that I was disgusted the entire time I was eating them.
You were disgusted, even though you kept doing it over and over and over and over.
You have to. You can't just do an experiment once and say, "Okay, it's a completed experiment." You have to do multiple blind tests with.
How is it blind if you know what you're eating?
I didn't. I had Takis here, and I had Cheetos.
So
I had no idea what I was grabbing.
The ones from last week are still unopened, sitting on your desk.
Shut up, Michael. Nobody's talking to you.
If you would like to support the show,
I wonder if they're stale now.
Yeah, because they're open, so they would have gotten stale.
They're not open still. If you would like to support the show, you can become a member by going to tuxdigital.com/membership, and you can watch the show live. You can get unedited episodes of the show. You can even get merch discounts at our store, tuxdigital.com/store, where we got a bunch of cool stuff like hats, mugs, hoodies, and so much more. tuxdigital.com/store.
And make sure to check out all the amazing shows here on Tux Digital. That's right. We have an entire network of shows to fill your whole week with geeky goodness. Head to tuxdigital.com to keep those Linux penguins marching.
Everybody, have a great week. And remember, the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
It's clobbering time.
Oh, I love you all.
Nice.
Yeah.
See you next week, everybody. As Ryan destroys the podcast.
I know.
We could do the screen shatter.